When you don't niche down, there's always a certain amount of relearning that's going to happen every single time you start a project.
Hey, welcome back to this episode. I have another awesome guest with me today, Brendan Lawrence with Tall Pines Building. Brendan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, Brendan, give us just a little bit of a background about you, who you are, what you do, what type of services you provide, just kind of a brief overview.
Sure. Been doing this about 20 years, working for myself for the majority of that, and kind of started off everything, new construction, remodels, exteriors, and now we specialize in mostly post-frame pole barns out here in Central Oregon.
Okay, and so you're in Oregon. I think you had mentioned that you actually grew up in England or New England. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you were transplant, or how'd you get to Oregon?
How did I end up in Oregon? Geez, I've been all over the place. I grew up in Massachusetts. I actually went down to Florida for a couple of years, and then I saw a picture of a buddy skiing in Colorado, so I went out there. And then, I don't know, it was just one of those things where Denver was cool, but it was getting pretty crowded. And we thought Central Oregon would still kind of give us a fun place to live where we didn't have such big crowds. So we kind of ended up here. Yeah, as soon as we came out here, we got pregnant with twins. And then it was time to put on my big boy pants and start diving hard into construction. We've been here ever since.
So you went to Oregon for the powder, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and I used to be a pretty strong ski bum. Like when you see the guys living in their vans, just chasing storms, that's kind of that was me.
Well, you actually had a business building custom skis, right?
Yeah, actually I did. In Denver, I had this workshop that I would rent, and I had a ski press and my designs and machinery for it. And then at night, I'd walk out to my van, climb into the bed in the van, and I'd pass out for the night out there. It was wild, but yeah, it was fun. It was cool. Got a lot of good skiing in.
Yeah. So you were making these skis, and then what made you get into construction? Like, how did you transition from like making skis into construction? Because that's a totally different industry.
Well, I've always done construction since I was 18 or 19. So I was actually doing construction during the day and the skis at night. But it's funny because I never thought that I would get into construction. What happened was that I had a quick 5-minute stay at college. My parents were pretty upset about that. I got nicely asked to leave. And there was this guy down the street, family friend, and he was pretty tough. And my dad kind of went down there and said, "Hey, I need you to kind of whip him into shape, make him start straightening this guy out." It backfired on him a little bit because I realized that I loved being outside and I loved construction. So, about a year later, I said, "Hey, I don't think I'm going back. This is great." I was driving heavy machinery and getting to do all this cool stuff that I was hooked. So I've always done it. I've done it pretty much since I was 19. But the skis, I did think that I was going to transition into the skis as a full-time thing. I really had a strong feeling that to get the most out of life, you need to be doing what you love as a career. And I also remember just getting totally burnt out on it to the point that after a year or two, I just didn't even care if I touched the skis, really, because it wasn't fun anymore. It had become everything, and I wasn't even skiing anymore.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you took a punishment and then turned it into a passion.
Yeah. I think that one backfired on him. But I remember it.
Gotcha. Okay. So
I remember that day. I remember my first day working. And, when you're 18 or 19, you've worked a lot of these inside jobs. Maybe you worked at the grocery store or whatever. And I just remember this first day. It was April. And the guy told me to go down this long gravel driveway and go do something. And I'll always remember the sound and the feel of the gravel crunching underneath my boots with the sun on my, just the breeze and the sun. And I mean, it was just beautiful out. And I'm like, how could I spend so much time working indoors and thinking that I wanted kind of one of those type of jobs when this is awesome? I don't know that I can go back. And that started it.
Yeah, I think I was talking to someone the other day about just a lot of blue collar people typically like to be outside. You know what I mean? Like they generally like being outside. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are like hiking enthusiasts or outdoorsmen, like just being outside. And that's part of the reason why they like construction. It's just because of that. So I know you like to do a lot of, where you live is absolutely gorgeous. You do a lot of dirt bike riding and hiking and all that stuff because you got some amazing property out there, land available. Is that what's that? What do they call that? The government land?
Oh, like the BLM land.
BLM land. You got a lot of that out there?
Yeah. I mean, you could pretty much hop on, if you're into off-roading, you could pretty much hop off-road just as soon as you get to the outskirts of town. You could probably make it all the way to Boise if you wanted, or parts of Nevada, without having to get back on a public road, paved road ever again.
Well, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I would definitely enjoy doing that stuff. But that's not what we're on the podcast about. We're not talking about outdoor stuff. We're talking about one thing that you did in your business recently in the past year that really started to make a big difference in the success of your business, and that is niching down.
Yep.
Right? And so I wanted to have you on the show because I tell a lot of people, the saying is riches in the niches and, all these other things. And it's funny because I just talked to today, I had to go to the big box store and I walk in and there's an electrician that I know. And he was actually someone that him and his business partner, I talked to, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, trying to help them because it was a new business. And I ran into him and I said, "Hey, how's it going?" We had a quick conversation and he's like, "Yeah, we're doing good. We just added roofing to our repertoire. We do electrical and we do remodeling and construction. And now we're doing roofing and we're adding all these extra services." And, I really didn't have time to get into a conversation about, well, that's a really dumb idea. Mm-hmm. but that's exactly what we're talking about, why you should niche down. And the benefit of this. And so what were you doing before? What services were you offering when you started your business? What was you offering? And then we'll talk about kind of what you're doing now.
I think it's probably easier to say, what wasn't I doing? I was...
The one call does it all, right?
Yeah, and I really thought that was the way that you need to be successful. I mean, I had spent time working for plumbers, electricians, contractors, carpenters, the whole spectrum. And I really thought for the longest time, in order for me to be successful, I'm going to have to get really knowledgeable about every single aspect, and I have to get really good at it. And I want to say that even just a year and a half ago, if you asked me what I did, the answer would be new construction or maybe remodels. But, we have some big decks coming up, and then pole barns, we enjoy doing those too. It's just kind of all over the place. And I totally forgot what the question was now.
You're good, man. What were you doing before? What you answered it? You were just doing all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Basically, I was doing whatever a word of mouth lead asked me to do.
Basically, whatever people were calling you for work, that's what you did.
Yep.
Because you were looking for business.
Yeah.
And how was that working out for you?
For a long time, I thought it was working out just fine. But I also used to look at things a lot different, where my gauge on if I was doing good or not was, is the customer happy? Do they have a sharp looking product? It wasn't necessarily, did I make money on this job? Do I have room to grow? Do I have a path? So my customers were happy. And as long as they were happy, I thought that I was being very successful. I wasn't.
Yeah.
And when I look back now, geez, it's almost exhausting to think about. I mean, you go off and you do a bathroom, and then you go do some flooring, then maybe you do some siding, some windows, and then maybe 3 years later, somebody asks you to do a bathroom again, but you don't have the data because the last time you did it was 3 years ago. It's like relearning all over again.
Right. Yeah. And this isn't this isn't a capability problem. You're capable, you're skilled, obviously some things you might be better at than others, but you're capable and mechanical enough that if you had to, even learn something that you've never done before, you can watch some YouTube videos or do a little bit of research and then go out and do it and deliver a good product, right? So this isn't a capability problem. I only know how to do this, so that's what I should do. It's just this idea that the more things you can do, the more business you can get.
Yeah, I definitely had a mindset for a long time that I will never go broke if I know how to do everything. I think that one big problem there is that you're worrying about being broke.
Right.
Instead of just trusting that, you're going to succeed when you put your head down and just get to it in one direction.
Yeah. What do you specialize in today? What do you do now?
Post frame garages. So pole barns, mostly. We do a lot of RV storage and workshops.
Okay. And do you do, I mean, but you don't do anything else. Like you're not doing decks. You're not doing other stuff. You're just doing post frame
No,
garages.
no, we still will get calls for certain jobs like that. And we kind of just tell them at this moment, we're not set up to be their most efficient option for that. Right now we're doing these pole barns and post frames. And that's kind of what we're set up for right now. And I don't really humor them, the leads, any further than that. I'll recommend them to somebody if I can, if I have a contact for that, but we're not pursuing them right now.
Okay. And then how has that changed your business? Let's hit it from different angles. From a perspective of, let's start with operations. From an operations perspective, what has that done, niching down to just post frames versus everything you could possibly get? What has that done from an operations perspective for you?
Well, for starters, I've got a helper, and he's a greenhorn, but the fact that, let's pretend that we were still out doing everything, all these different jobs. For a guy that's a year into construction, every single day is a new day for him, a new skill set, something. He's still at day one for every project out there. When you have a guy that you can take under your wing and just every day for a year, you guys are doing the same type of projects, it takes so much weight off of my shoulders because he's got a year of experience doing this every single day now. So there's so many more times when I'm able to kind of step away and do what I need to do, and I can trust that he's going to keep things going along. It also makes it a lot easier to have conversations about money, these investments that clients are asking, because we have so much data now about what it takes us to build these pole barns that we can just have conversations very fluidly about how we're going to be able to give them the product that they're looking for in the price range that they need it to be. Where before it would be one of those things where you drive out there and you take a whole bunch of measurements, you put together one number, and you really hope they didn't mess that up because you haven't done this for 2 years.
Right. Yeah.
So it's definitely made things very fluid. Even just things like the tools in the trailer. So many of those tools we don't need anymore. It's nice to just be able to really have the specialty tools that you need and not worry about, do I need to have router bits for this? Or do I need to have, all these, do I need to have grout trowels for tile? You're getting rid of all that stuff.
Yeah, plumbing tools and electrical tools and, specialty tools that go with those things and all these different, tools that you need to be able to do multiple services. So once you start doing, the post frames, like you have a certain set of tools and that's it. That's just the ones you use over and over and over again.
Yeah, it is so much nicer.
Okay, so it's helped with the operations side of it. What about from the sales side of it or estimating? How has that made it easier or better?
I used to get pretty nervous when it would come to doing estimates because when you're doing everything all the time, your data is really kind of crap as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. And that they're probably going to be making calls to other contractors who probably specialize in what they just called you for. How are you going to compete with that? And for me, a lot of times it would come down to maybe trying to be more personable than the competition or get them to trust me. I didn't have really the tools that they had to be able to confidently go into these estimates and help these customers the way that I can now with post frame. Post frame, I can go in there. You could call me on the phone and I could tell you what your project's going to cost you. I don't even need to see your property right now. I could pretty much tell you within a window what this project will run. And if you're shocked by that number or if you like whatever, we can in real time start crafting projects that are going to fit inside what this customer is looking for, because we have over a year of data right now of just strictly recording every single process of our post frame construction. And it's really made it so that the confidence level is incredibly high now. Taking the benefits that I feel from it out of it, the benefits to the customers when they call us on the phone are through the roof now too, because they're actually talking to somebody who's specializing in this and can really have very in-depth conversations. And I think it really shows, and it makes a huge difference. The conversations that I have with our customers now with sales, it's a much different feeling than it used to be. You could tell that they feel they're in good hands right now and that this is going to go somewhere good for them.
Yeah, I mean, they can tell that you know what you're talking about because you actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you have experience. And so, It's not like if I mostly do roofs and somebody says, hey, can you build a deck? And I'm like, yeah, I can build a deck. I used to be a carpenter 20 years ago or whatever. And they're like, okay, well, we want a composite decking. What's the best kind of composite decking? Well, I may not know that answer because I'm not doing it every day. Right. And so I either have to lie to them or, pull something out of my butt or, tell them I don't know, but I'll find out, which reveals that I'm not actually an expert at that. That makes sense. Like you have obviously have a lot more confidence in knowing all the details and all the nuanced things about that industry or that niche because you're in it every single day. And even like changes, you could probably on the fly, if I said, hey, Brendan, I want to have a garage, whatever size with 2 overhead doors. And then you're like, sure, it'd be roughly this. And I'm like, well, what if I wanted to add a 3rd overhead door? Like you can probably on the fly, like spit out some rough numbers and know that because you have that information.
I know what it would be right now.
Yeah. And so if I wanted to add windows or if I wanted to add a door or whatever, because you have all that data, you know it, then you can definitely give recommendations on it. So what about like the estimating though? Has it made estimating easier for like when you actually give them an estimate?
Oh yeah. If you asked me to do a hardwood floor estimate for you right now, it would probably take me 5 times longer to figure that out than it would to put together a 4,000 square foot building for you. It's allowed me to take the data that we gather every day when we're working and put different parameters and things in place on all of our estimating software. So we can actually, if you called me up right now and you said you wanted a pole barn and you gave me the information on it, before our phone call's done, our estimate's pretty much done. I already know what it is. It makes it so that I can also everything can run on a formula because we have all this data. So I just keep updating the formulas. I punch in some numbers and it makes my estimates come out super fast. And I know that it's incredibly impressive to many homeowners when you can come over and just give them their estimate. That's it. And compared to having a contractor out and then maybe chasing him down 2 or 3 weeks later and finding out that he still hasn't done it because he doesn't have all the variables yet. Yeah, it has certainly made things very easy to spit out numbers and keep the sales process moving with the customers.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's made that easier. Okay. What about from a marketing perspective? What has niching down done for you?
It's been, I think that it's really powerful when you can pull up a company's, let's just say their Instagram profile. You pull that up and you just see all of this pole barn information all the way down it. I think that there's a lot of trust that will come with that compared to if we had one pole barn and then we were doing a deck and then we were doing some hardscapes and then a bathroom. If I'm looking for a roofer, I'm not out looking for somebody who was just doing some electrical and somebody who was, doing a deck the week before. I want to pull up their social media and see that they dedicate all their time to roofing and they're going to have all this experience that goes with it. So with social media, I've had a lot of jobs come in where the homeowners, they found our ads and then they social proofed us by going binge watching all of our social media clips. We're on a job site today where the guy said, look, I watched all of your videos and I don't need to call anybody else. So let's just work this out. We put together a deal and that was it. I've had 2 or 3 of those in just the last few months where they basically said, hey, we went and we checked out all your social media. You're our guy. So come on over.
Yeah. And I've had that happen to me before as well, where they're like, oh, I watch all your lives and all your videos. Like we knew you were the one we were going to call when we wanted these projects done. I don't think people realize that when you have a lot of videos, like if you have, 30, 40, 50, 100 videos on your, let's say with Instagram, and it's you talking and, talking about different things and projects you've done, you can start to get a sense of who that person is, right? You can kind of start picking up their character. You can see if there's consistency in, how they talk and what they talk about. Like you can watch 10, 20 videos of someone and kind of get a sense of who they are as a person, their character, and then make a decision of like, okay, this company or this person, I don't know if, they seem kind of wishy-washy or whatever, because one of their videos, they're complaining about customers in there. And, in another video, they're complaining about the vendors, or another video, they're complaining about materials. It's like, not that professional. And then they call you, and when you're talking to them, it sounds the same as the videos you're making, right? It's the same guy, the same character. Now they've closed that loop because the Brendan on the phone is matching the Brendan on the social media, right? And that sounds like you're putting on a front, and it just really solidifies that deal. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have any videos and it's just all pictures, people don't get to see who you are, right, as a person. But also they don't get to see that all of your content, like you were saying, is all about post frames. It's all the same stuff. This is what we do day in, day out. This is why we're the experts at it. And so this is, I mean, imagine if you were doing that for, like you said, you had to do it for roofs and bathrooms and decks and windows and post frames.
It sounds exhausting.
It is. It's absolutely exhausting. And so what ends up happening is you don't create more content, right? You only make content of one of each thing. Mm-hmm. And so, this week or today is a deck, and the next day is a deck, and the next day is a deck, and then it's a roof job for 3-4 videos, and then it's just complete inconsistency in what you do. It's almost like an identity crisis. It's like, make up your mind. What are you good at, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it also allows you to provide a lot more information to your potential customers, because, like for me, if I have to make content about pole barns every day, I can't just go walk around the same pole barn that we're working on for like 2 months every day and say, hey, here's our pole barn. It's going to be like Groundhog's Day. So you have to get a little more creative.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll end up talking about like, oh, the lighting. Like here's an easy way to add lighting, which will do this for your pole barn. You have to get a little more creative with what you're showing out there, but it's incredibly helpful to your customers, and it just helps grow that trust in you even more. Because you're really having to focus on how can I keep making my social media on this one topic engaging, so that each time they flip down to the next video, there's something worth staying for. And you do end up getting...
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Brendan. Yeah, I mean, you're getting more detailed information about one specific topic, right?
Yes.
Because if you're doing decks and all these different things, you're kind of staying at like surface level, because every time you have a new project, you're kind of stating the same thing over. It's like, here's the best things about decks. And then you do a roof. Mm-hmm. Here's the best things about roofs. But if you stay on decks, then you're starting to get more detailed, more granular about different types of decks. Why do you want these kind of steps? And what's kind of best lighting? And, what kind of footing you should have? And what's the best materials? And how should you frame? Like, there's so many, detailed information about that. And now you're really educating the client about these things specific to one topic, versus just giving like 30,000 foot view generic videos about different mm-hmm. projects you do. You're really educating.
Yeah. And I think that those are the videos that sell you to the customer. Yeah. It's one thing to have a nice video that showcases a great job, but that, I feel like, it will show the customers the potential that you have to do great work. But the stuff that I think will really drive home this connection is going to be those videos that you're talking about, where you get into some of the finer details, options you can do, benefits, and you start kind of teaching them the construction side of it.
Hey, just a quick time out from the show. If you're a frustrated contractor who's dealing with low profit margins, stuck working on the tools every day, or doing free estimates for people who are never going to hire you in the first place, I invite you to my private contractor community, the Profit Club, where contractors just like you are adding 2 to 3 times more profit each year without producing any more jobs, and finally getting completely off the tools to never do another free estimate again. So if you're ready to increase your profits, stop doing free estimates, and get off the tools, then all you have to do is click the link in the show notes to learn more about the Profit Club and see how I can easily 2 to 3 times the cash in your pocket, give you a proven sales process that will convert more jobs with ease and get you off the tools once and for all. And the best part is, you can do all of this without having to produce more jobs than you currently are. Click the link to learn more. Now let's get back to the show. From a consumption standpoint, if I want a post frame and I go to, contractor A that does all kinds of stuff, and I'm only looking for information about post frames, I have to scroll through the decks and the roofs and the fences and the bathrooms. And then, I have to scroll through 5, 10, 20 videos And then I find a pocket of like 4 or 5 videos on post frames because that was the week or 2 weeks they were working on it. Right. And so now I consume that, and then I want to consume some more information. And now I got to scroll again for another, 20 videos to get to the next video on post frames. Whereas with you, every video is all about post frames. And so every video I watch, I'm learning something new about it.
Yeah, it really helps, I think, to retain them too. I know that for me, if I'm going looking for something, I'll flip through somebody else's social media, and as soon as it stops, you lost my attention now. If their direction changes, then I change my direction too, and I'll go find somebody else who I can scroll for longer on their stuff to get the information I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about like systems and, SOPs and kind of that area. How has niching down helped with those things?
It's really awesome. When you don't niche down, there's always a certain amount of relearning that's going to happen every single time you start a project. It's just impossible to try and remember all the ways that you messed up on something else. And by mess up, I don't mean like you botched the job, but I mean inefficiencies, things that, you could have done differently. You're not going to remember that 3 years from now when you do it, again.
Yeah, I forgot that I ordered extra 2x4s when I build a deck so I can use it to support the framing and this and that. And when I ordered the package, I didn't know add extra 2x4s, right? Because I just forgot that. Now you don't have any extra 2x4s. Now it's another trip to the store. That just cost me, $50, $60, $100 worth of errors.
Yeah, and now that we are doing the same thing every day, if we have that mess up, that inefficiency, we can stop and look at it and go, okay, well, what can we put in place to safeguard us against this in the future? And it actually has value, because the next time that we're going to do this is probably just 2 weeks from now. And you can start stacking these up on top of each other. It really makes a huge difference to be able to sit there and put this stuff to work. It's fun to see it versus just having it disappear off into the, wherever the heck your old memories go.
But you're also, when you create your systems and SOPs, like, because you're niche down, you only have to create it once for one thing. And so it's not like you're creating an SOP for, let's say, how to, something simple like ordering materials. Like maybe you want to create an SOP for ordering materials because one day you want to have somebody else do that task. Well, now I got to have a SOP for decks. I got to have an SOP for, roofs. I got to have one for pole barns. I got to have one for bathrooms. I got to have one for kitchens. It's like every single service has to have its own set of SOPs in order to make that efficient if you're trying to be efficient and productive. Now, because you're post frame, I create this. Once I solve this problem, once I solve for X problem, that problem is solved now. And then our SOP gets to live on until something changes in the industry, new materials, new techniques or whatever. But I don't have to go and create another SOP 7 more times.
Yeah, it's real cool being able to have just all these different files and PDFs, like when we show up for a sales visit, having just a standardized PDF that has all the information that we need on it, and we just start filling in the blanks. For ordering our metal, for ordering our framing, we have forms now that we just fill in the blanks. How many of this? How much of that? Even in like Company Cam, our templates, we have templates that we use now. Foundation, here's your template. Framing, template. Siding, template. And you just go down the list now. And it makes it really easy to also communicate with guys who, might be new on the job or trying to come up the ranks. It's very simple. You actually have repeatable data now that you can organize and put together and show the guys. And I can't imagine if we were out like doing a bathroom next week, like how am I going to put together all of this stuff to show the guys? It's their first bathroom. And now I'm going to try and remember all the information and then teach them all the information.
Right.
It's a lot easier now where I'm just like, hey, look, we already wrote down everything. Here's even diagrams of the information in Company Cam for you to reference. So if you forget about it, here's the picture that reminds you, this is how we do it. Imagine trying to do that for every aspect of the house. You wouldn't have time. But when we're niched.
Yeah, you're spending all your time in just the SOPs because you're doing it for 7 different services.
Yeah, so it's been awesome.
I love hearing that. I've talked with Chris about niching down. You've definitely niched down. Let's talk a little bit about why you made that decision and what that was like for you to decide to niche down. I'm sure it was easy. I'm sure you just woke up and said, I'm going to niche down. And then the next day, everything was perfect, right?
I feel like I knew for a long time, or at least a few years, that if I ever want to stand a chance of not having to swing the hammer myself, I need to figure something out that's repeatable and that I can teach. That's not going to happen when we're just doing all these different jobs all the time. Honestly, what got me to pick the pole barns was I genuinely enjoyed them. I like that we're outside. I like that they're big structures. It's very satisfying to sit there and all of a sudden you've got this 2,000 square foot building. And you're like, heck yeah, we just did that. Thing looks rad. This is great. I also wanted to pick something that, like with decks, let's say you're doing high-end decks. There's a lot of fine carpentry that goes into that. And I had my concerns about, well, it's going to take me a lot longer to build up guys, and it's going to really hurt a lot when guys leave if I've spent 2 years teaching them how to do all this fancy deck work. And so, yeah, with the decking, I just thought that this is going to be a real headache potentially. This is very high detailed work. And honestly, I don't even know if I have the patience to try and teach everybody this all the time. The pole barns was really hitting a good spot for me. Part of it also is the variables. Am I going to do new construction? Am I going to do remodels? Do I want to have to be in charge of 20 different variables and lining up tile guys, then lining up plumbers, and then lining up electricians, and all of these different parts that go into these huge projects? If I'm not searching for pretty words here, like I'm a scatterbrained person and I'm all over the place. And pole barns, they were kind of fitting my personality and my strengths in that there's limited variables to it. I really just kind of have to think about the framing, the siding that's going on it, some excavation, and concrete, garage doors too. But that's it really for the majority of the orders that somebody's going to want. What was that? 5 variables right there. And
I think so. Yeah.
Well, it's something that I could wrap my head around very easily. Between my genuine just enjoyment of being outside, not having to worry about carrying mud into somebody's house by accident, or making a dust storm. I'm outside. It's enough variables that I can wrap my head around it all day long. It was kind of a no-brainer at that point, and we just went all in, and it was awesome. It's been great. I couldn't imagine a year and a half ago if I was still doing that. I wouldn't have progressed at all. Now that we're niched down, you can actually see, an upward momentum for you. You're going places because you're focused now. It's a much different experience.
Yeah, every improvement you do in your business towards post frames is getting you closer to having a more successful business, but also a more automated business, right? And if you have 7 different services, then you have to do everything 7 times, like we just talked about. And so, even if you were to get, the post frame, if you did post frames in 6 other services, and you got the post frame, it took you a year and a half to get the post frame all dialed in, running like a well-oiled machine. Now you got to do it 6 more times with the 6 other services, right? And you got to dial those in. And that could take another 6 months to a year and a half for each one of those. And so, yeah, it just makes the most sense. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, think about your employees also. It's one thing for the business owner to sit there and think about efficiency, but your employees also want to have things to be proud of at the end of the day.
Yep.
I know that watching guys over here, when they're working, they're really proud of the things that they're accomplishing. And if we were all over the place, they wouldn't have that opportunity. So not only is it nice for me, but it's given the guys a lot to be proud of. I think it really helps keep them around because they see their progress and they have they just have a lot to be proud of versus having all these different processes and confusion going on all the time and having to relearn everything. They're doing stuff.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I told the story before whenever I was doing handyman stuff and I hired a young helper, and usually I would do a 90-day evaluation, and he comes in 45 days in. He's like, "Hey, I need to talk to you." I'm like, "Sure, what's up?" He's like, "I don't know if I can do this." I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Well, I feel like I'm struggling all the time." And that's because every day he came in, he was doing something new. So he would go home at the end of the day feeling like a failure because he was trying something new, wasn't doing it very well. Yes, he was learning, but he wasn't improving, quickly because he was doing something different, every day or every week. And so he always felt like a failure because he was never getting good at the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of a wake-up moment for me of like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, you're going to feel like a failure every day when you try something new and fail at it. And so, like,
Sure.
yes, you have to, every time you're doing something, every garage you put up, your guys get a little bit better and more confident. They get that pride of what they're doing. When you're doing something different every day, it's like starting over, right? It's like starting from ground level.
Yeah. And one of our guys, he asked a few weeks back, he said, hey, what do you think about me working 410s? He wants to start having 3-day weekends. There's no way that I could have said yes to that if we were all over the place. But because he's been doing this now, he knows what to do, and I don't have to be concerned. Like, yeah, if I can't be here with you necessarily all that time, but I'm not concerned because you know what to do. You've been doing this, and it's been working out great. He works his 410s now, and he takes off. He's gone Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and he can do that because of all the hours he's dedicated to this one niche that he understands now.
And that actually adds value to him because now he gets a certain lifestyle that he enjoys because you've given him that opportunity.
Yeah.
So that, which adds more value to him, makes him want to, like what he's doing and stay longer and appreciate the business. So that's good stuff. That's good stuff, Brendan. How has we don't have to get into the specifics, but like financially, how has that improved once you niche down?
I want to say that our first year, our sales quadrupled because
once you started niching.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And it would be very easy to look at it and just be like, well, yeah, Brendan, you're building big buildings. But I don't think that that's what it is. What it is that we are much better at selling now. And we're not selling because we're being deceitful to anybody. We're selling because we are the right answer. We have what you're looking for. We have the background. We have the knowledge to do this. And with that comes a lot more people saying, you're our guy. I want you to do this. So our sales have really skyrocketed since we started to do this.
And that's been, what you said, a year and a half once you kind of started to do a niche, or how long has it been?
Yeah, I want to say that January of 2024, we had it as a potential niche. And by maybe June of last year, we really knew that, like, okay, we're not going to be doing other jobs. This is just what we're running with now.
And once you made that decision, in your opinion, everything's gotten kind of progressively easier. All the different areas that we covered, everything's gotten. I mean, hasn't gotten like super easy, right? It's still tough, but it's gotten easier than before when you were doing all kinds of stuff.
Oh, night and day. Just the fact that you can sit there and pump out numbers and estimates to people in a matter of minutes instead of days. That's weeks worth of your life back. And yeah, it's it really feels, without a niche, when you're just taking the job that calls you, whatever it might be, that is kind of like operating in survival mode, it feels like. And once you finally niche down, it'll be the first time that you feel a direction and like optimism towards what's in the future. I mean, you can stay small on that path if you want, but if you want to have some big company that you're going to sell off one day or hand down to somebody, you can also start to see that. And it's not going to take long. If you're just recording all of the data from your jobs, it's not going to take you long to start having some real good numbers to work with and start making decisions with. And you just kind of build on top of that every single job. You just keep on getting a little better, a little better, a little better. The days of having to relearn have come to an end. You're just full steam ahead. It's a completely different experience.
Yeah, that's definitely where it's at. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, everything gets easier when you niche down. And of course, there's always that fear mindset of, well, what if there's not enough work coming in? Has that been your experience? Like, once you niche down, has you weren't able to get as much work, or how is the lead flow and the schedule looking now?
No, it hasn't. And I'll be honest, if you asked me that same question 10 years ago, I'd be like, dude, that's a scary thing. Like, I would be saying that with them. I think that when you are specializing in something it's your marketing, your ability to retain people's attention and sales. It's so much stronger than when you're out there saying that you do everything. We haven't experienced any portion where we're wondering if we're going to have a full schedule this year. It's just been very easy to,
fill the schedule,
to lose track of what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, you're good. So yeah, fill the schedule and, yeah, I mean, so everything you talked about, everything has gotten easier. I haven't heard you say one thing has gotten harder since you started niching down.
No, you'll never hear me say that. It was like, I seriously used to think that I needed to get out of construction. I mean, it was that bad, where I felt that the only way to save myself would be to find something else to do as a career. Maybe I need to go take a job with some big company, or maybe I need to go completely switch gears. Once I started to niche down, I don't know if I've really had those thoughts since then. I mean, it has been incredibly optimistic, and it's a whole different way of experiencing your company once you start to finally put it in such a direct line like that.
What would be your advice to someone who's like, I get it, Brad, I hear you and Brendan, I know I need to niche down, but I'm just scared that I'm going to like run out of work or whatever. Like, what would be the encouraging words you'd have to that person?
I wouldn't worry about it. I think that you are much more powerful as somebody who's niched down, and you're only going to be prolonging this new efficiency in your business the longer that you put it off. And I think that there's always going to be ways to find work, but what does that matter if you're just trying to scrounge up work that you have to relearn every single time you do it?
Yeah, I agree 100%. It is scary. I'm not going to lie. When you niche down, it is scary at first. And I always tell people that, Murphy's Law is like, as soon as you pick a niche, like the phone will stop ringing for that, whatever it is you're niching down, and you'll get phone calls for everything else, right? It doesn't stop completely, but maybe a week or two goes by. No one's calling you for a post frame, and you're like, oh, I got to sell something, I got to sell something. So here comes a bathroom along. Hey, I need a bathroom remodel. And you're like, I know how to do those. I mean, you probably experienced that same kind of too, right? I mean, it happened to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get those calls. The way that I'll respond to them, sometimes it's almost always going to be a repeat customer that's making that type of call these days. And sometimes, I'll give them a reference for somebody else. If we have a really long relationship, maybe I'll say, we're really busy. We're doing this. This is our thing now. If you want, maybe in the wintertime, maybe we'll get a big storm and we could do something like that for you, But it's really just kind of almost like working for a friend if you're going to accept it at this point, because our interest is not in that. And I know, I don't care how much I love you, it's going to be such an inefficient week when we're over there working, because we don't do that anymore. And it's not worth it for us to spend the time there. Yeah. If we take that same energy and we put it into just working on the niche business, it's probably going to be twice the return of just, hitting the easy button and taking that bathroom job or something. I also think that you had said something before, and I forget how you worded it, but I feel like you'll often hear, I'm getting all of these calls for this, so I'm thinking that that's going to be my niche now. And then my mind immediately goes to like, is that niche good for you? Just because people are calling you for that right now, does that niche actually coincide with your strengths? Like, for instance, we'll get a lot of like barn dominium calls. Barn dominiums are pretty cool.
All the rave
but I'll tell people that we don't. What's that?
I said they're all the rave right now.
They are. But I'll tell people that we're not doing them. The reason I say that is because I specifically picked pole barns because it fits my personality. And again, I mentioned the variables before. I only have to think about 5 variables for the most part. The second that I accept a barn dominium job, I'm right back to doing what I said I didn't want to do. And I'm thinking about everything from engineering to foundation, electrical, plumbing, heating. And just because the phone is ringing for it doesn't mean that my company is going to benefit if I make that my niche. And we decided to keep it simple. And we're rocking with it.
I think you could say this, like if your specialty is barn dominiums, right? And then somebody calls you and is like, hey, I just want a post frame garage. Well, you could probably do that, right? Because it's actually less than what you're currently doing. But to do it the other way, like you're talking about, is much harder and much more involved. And so, I think there's opportunities even within a niche that you could, pick up a secondary kind of niche, if you will. But I'm still going to stay with, if you're a barn dominium guy, you should just do barn dominiums, right? But this idea of, I'm going to do barn dominiums, but then I'm also going to build a deck, or I'm also going to do a roof. Like they're so far apart from each other that you're just asking for trouble.
Yep. It's just that whole relearning thing over and over again.
Yeah. I've paid that price many, 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 many times. So we're getting short on time. Brendan, I want to respect your time. I always ask everyone this question. What is a book that you are currently reading, or one that you would recommend?
Oh, geez. I got caught off guard with that one. The Contractor Profit Blueprint. That's the one. No, honestly,
that was terrible.
It's as, I don't know if cliche is the word to say that would be a good one, but it will change everything if you start approaching your business the way that you teach it. Because I would never want the version of the way that I was operating, let's say a year and a half ago. And I can sit here today and say, man, this thing's going to go as far as I can imagine. The only thing that's ever going to stand in the way is the day that I say, that's far enough. I'm comfortable here. There's so much optimism and such a different experience that comes from following the methods in that book. And I'm not saying, I don't mean that it's going to like teach you how to niche down or focus like that. I mean, everything changes. You learn to talk to people differently, and your whole mindset can change. And once your mindset starts changing, then all of a sudden it's like having all of these improvements just on auto dial, like just automatically placed in your mind, and everything in your life will start to change.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, obviously I wasn't paying you. I mean, I'll send you a check when we get done, but
thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Brendan, where can people find you to learn more about your businesses? And by the way, guys, if you don't follow him I know you're on TikTok, I'm sure you're on some other platforms too, but Brendan can basically, if you just watch his videos, it's like a masterclass in how to record videos that are very engaging and very well done. So where's the best way for people to learn more about your business?
Cool. Yeah, we're on all the socials. Tall Pines Building.
Is that your handle on all of them? Tall Pines Building?
Yep. Might be at Tall Pines Builds. But yeah, if you just put in Tall Pines Building, Oregon.
Awesome.
Are you looking it up right now? Is that what you're doing?
I really appreciate you being on the show. And like I said, thanks for sharing your knowledge and your experiences with niching down. I think a lot of people will benefit from this, because if they do start niching down, it's going to open up a world of possibilities. It's going to make things so much easier. And again, I just appreciate you being on the show and sharing your experience. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. And hopefully we change some people's minds today to take the plunge and start niching.
I hope so. That's the point of these podcasts, is to try and get people to make the right decisions in your business. And with that, I will let you know that you can follow me on all the social media platforms. Just search for the Hammer and Grind podcast. If you haven't grabbed my book yet, please make sure you do. I have links in the show notes. I have Audible. It's on ebook, it's a paperback, all the different ways you can get it to consume it. But guys, that's it. And remember, until next time, profit is not a dirty word.